no one makes it alone.
Mm-hmm.
Is what I've learned in my up and down, peaks and valleys life career. Is that although I say I'm a one man band, that's not the truth. The truth, I've always had people behind me. It started with some members of my family to then mentors who saw something in me that I didn't see in me and pushed me. So it's about, passing it forward, hopefully, and hopefully if my story can inspire someone to follow their true calling and their dreams. I'm always happy to share what it's like to grow up a brown, gay Dominican in the South Bronx in the 70s.
Well, I'm interested. Let's jump in right into
it. How did that journey start? Like, start with your childhood.
None of those subtitles is easy on its own. When you put them all together, it really creates an ecosystem of it can go really, really well, or it could be really, really bad.
It's a play that a lot of people want to watch, and I know.
My life could have turned really differently just by a choice I would have made in the moment. So I'm very blessed and happy to still be here and able to tell my story.
So who are you? Because that's like the number one question that we ask everyone. Like, where did this journey started, and who are you in this field, in this industry, and just in life?
Well, my name is Emilio Sosa. I am still a costume designer for theater and live performances. Within the last year, with the pandemic, I've kind of really honed in onto who do I really want to be after this? Because I don't think at least for me, I should speak from the I didn't feel that I could be the same person coming out of this that I went into this, because this has been such a life-altering experience on so many levels that there's no way the same things I was doing or dealing with could be the same way I was trying to move forward with my life. So I really dug deep and I started writing, and that's what I'm doing moving forward. I mean, I will always be a costume designer / fashion designer, because that's where I started, and that's always be a part of my story. But the end goal is to create my own content and be able to affect my own story that way, and not be so dependent on a director to want to work with me, a writer to write the story that hires the director, that the theater produces to then approve hiring me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's too many layers for me to get a paycheck. And I wanted to cut some of those layers between the paycheck, my creative expression, and myself.
You want to green light your own movement and your own story.
Totally. You know what? But it wasn't easy, because I gave myself permission to do it, because this pandemic closed the theater and I was out of a job. I mean, I built a career where I spent 10 months out of the year traveling, and it went to zero. And I saw my income just dwindle to like literally nothing. So I had to really, really make some hard choices. But I've been fortunate. Some people will say I've been irresponsible, but because I've never ever lived within the space I was in. Meaning, if I wasn't working, I didn't stop me from dreaming or thinking about doing bigger things. I was never afraid to leave something, to try something new. And sometimes you hurt some people. You have to leave some people that you didn't want to leave them. But I've always been a person that I've always known that I wanted more, and I was never afraid to push my envelope further. So
this is great, because while we still on the subject about what gave you permission to say I want to do this, what was that moment for you in this pandemic that you was like, why not me? What drove that last piece? Because a lot of people have these dreams or goals, and they may go after them, or something is stalling them, something is holding them back. What was that last connection for you to be like, this is it? If I don't do it now, then I don't know when I'm going to do it.
it's two-parter. One of it was a very selfish reason, and then the other one was an artistic reason. So I'll give you the selfish reason first, because that was what really propelled me. I've been very fortunate and very blessed to have a very long career. I've been designing professionally on Broadway and internationally for 20 years now. From my first real big play was in 1999 with Most Def and Jeffrey Wright, the Topdog, Underdog on Broadway. You know, it was my first show out of the block. I came out with a bang. I was in magazines. I was like the it man of color. When being of color, you didn't get work. You know what I'm saying? Back then, 20 years ago, it wasn't this BLM movement. It wasn't like no one cared. Back then, we were still like, if you were Black and you barely worked, you barely worked. And as the years gone by, you know, I accumulated a lot of work. I met a lot of people. But then there's always, unfortunately, we live in a culture that there's always something new, shiny coming right behind you. And you can't be like the new kid on the block 20 years in. You know what I mean? I have become the establishment, really, within my circle. And I was younger, just as talented people were getting jobs that normally I wouldn't even blink at, and they would be at my door. You know what I mean? If you needed a designer of color, Emilio Sosa will do it. If you needed, can he do Black? Yes. Can he do Latin? Yes. You know, I filled so many boxes that when the boxes started to change and my name wasn't on the top of the list, then I wasn't getting the job. So then I had to realize, what am I going to do? You know what I'm saying? So then that was the selfish part of me. I wasn't getting the gigs that normally I was getting. So I had to figure out, I had to reinvent myself somehow. Right. I still enjoyed theater and creating storytelling and that aspect of it. And then I've always, then the true to myself part is I've been writing and journaling since I was in high school. So I always knew I had an affinity to it. I find myself really comfortable in it. It's something, I've always liked things that I could do by myself, that I didn't need someone or a lot of tools or I just needed a piece of paper and a pencil. The same way that's how I started sketching. Piece of paper and a pencil, and writing was just like an extension of that. So for many, many years, like right now, I can go back and read stuff that I wrote 10, 20 years ago. So then I figured out, okay, I have an affinity to it. I have some kind of facility with it. Where can it go? Where can it go? So then I was in tech. I don't know if you guys understand like theater.
Yeah, we're both actors and writers.
Oh, perfect. Then, you know, I was in tech. And here's another thing. I've worked with some of the best, most brilliant writers and directors and actors of my generation.
Thank you so much, Emilio. You didn't have to say that live.
Exactly. Like right now. Like Winning Cloud. You know, I've worked with amazing, amazing writers, directors, actors. But then I've also worked with like writers, directors, and actors that I'd be like, how the hell do they get this gig? I could write this shit myself. You know what I'm saying? But I'm there as a costume designer, and they don't care about me. I'm in the back. They didn't care. So the last show I was working on, I was sitting in tech, dark room, just watching the same scene over and over again. Then I started like saying, okay, if I were to write something, what would I write? And then I started thinking about my life and the choices that I've made. And some of those choices I'm proud of. Some I'm not. Because, you know, for me, I had to hustle. I'm a hustler. I didn't go to a Ivy League school and get a degree in costume design for theater, you know? And that's where really the people who are getting the jobs now, that's where you build that foundation, is that you go to a Yale or an NYU or Carnegie Mellon. So then you meet your contemporary directors there. And the professors in those schools are the same designers that are on Broadway. So
building connections already.
There's a pipeline. I came in there from the Bronx, loud, brash. I don't care. I'm gonna kick this shit down. I don't care. You know. But when you do that, yes, you get a lot of attention, and some people are attracted to that. But sometimes some people are afraid of that because they don't know how to receive that. So
you're like a liability.
I'm a liability. I talk too much. I don't know when to say quiet. Yeah. You know, like I said, I'd be in production meetings.
Or they quickly label you. They quickly label you difficult to work with.
Definitely. Oh my God.
Just because you have an opinion.
I don't even know what the hell I'm labeled anymore. It's like, you know, it's like, you better make sure you have that bag. You want to hire Emilio because he'll leave on you if you got another gig. You know, if someone offers me more money for less time, I'm like, it's economics. I'm sorry. So I was sitting in a theater and I was like, okay, what would I write? And then I figured out what my story would be. And I wrote it.
Nice.
I wrote it. And it took me, I learned how to write a screenplay from doing it wrong. And then eventually someone gave me the idea of getting that app, Final Draft. So I figured out how to format. And just it happens today of all days that I was able to register my manuscript with the Writers Guild of America.
Congrats.
Nice.
That's a big step.
And that, you know what? And if you would have asked
nice
me this a year ago, because it was a year ago that this story came into my head, would I be able to do this in a year? First of all, I didn't know what registering a manuscript was until I learned that I had to, because I sent my script to this director that I worked with, and she was like, "Are you registered? Is this registered?" I was like, "Let me figure this out. Let me get back to you." So I just went on and registered. So that's what started. That's what gave me the force or the permission to just go and write. Because I've been doing it for so long. And the little bit that I've written has gotten really good positive feedback that this year, this pandemic forced me to be in my house for a year, something that I hadn't been in a decade. Like I hadn't been in New York for this long ever. So what was I going to do? There was no shows going up, you know, like I said, the savings was down to like nothing. I had to figure out what's the next chapter coming out of this. Because I told myself, there's no way I'm coming out of this year without a freaking written manuscript. I don't care. I did not care what I had to do, so I just wrote it. And you know, I like to push myself also.
I think that's I like that. I think this, you know, it's a great story. Like here you are being have a career, you know, and being in the industry for so long, doing what you love, and here comes this thing that sideswipes that, and then you're just there. But you always had this idea, and you know that you had this other passion, and here you are now, you know, probably had the fears, like, but that didn't stop you to go look for the answers to the questions and actually go through it, you know, because a lot of people, like you said, could have been comfortable in that lane. It's like, well, I'm just going to wait till things open back up again and figure it out from there. But you went to the unknown and actually gave yourself that chance to figure out. And a year later, look at you now. You registered something. You wrote something and registered.
I know. I just knew in my heart that I couldn't come out of this year with the same mindset that I went in. You know, bitter because I wasn't getting the jobs. You know, complacent because I wasn't making the money. You know what I'm saying? I was like, there's no way I want to bring that energy coming forward. And the only way I knew that is I said to myself, I'm going to have to write myself out of this situation. I'm going to write myself out of it. And that's what I did. I just said, I'm going to write myself out of it. And now, you know, I have other ideas. Now I'm starting again on another idea from square one. You know, I apologize, a lot of the noise because I live right in the bottom of a hill.
Yeah, that's no problem.
Oh, you don't hear it? Oh, good.
We hear it, but it's not
New
like
York City.
Yeah, it's exactly.
Okay, cool.
And it's not overwhelming.
You know, I live at the bottom of the hill on a snow day, and
it's a bad mix.
The rest is history.
The rest is history. You know, people are just getting stuck. It's just what it is. So that's who I am now. I can say that I am Emilio Sosa, costume designer / writer.
You
know?
I loved how you took us to the journey of you now. I would like to go back to your journey before. Like where did that come from? The interest in like doing costumes. I know you picked up a pencil and a paper. Like, how did that come about? Was it something that came from your family, or it was just something that you just found out within yourself?
It came from trauma. As a very young boy, I went through a life-altering traumatic experience that just changed it changed everything about me. Really, the boy that came out after that was not the same one that went into that. Because I was really young. I mean, I won't go into it because I haven't even really processed it, if you really want to tell the truth. And that's why the writing was so important to me, because and art. But I was young. It was like, I don't even remember, to be honest. I just remember that in the 3rd grade, when I went back to class, I was a different little boy. And I had one teacher, Miss Torres, in the Bronx, 1972, 74 maybe. And she saw the difference. And I wasn't communicating. I had that within the summer to that time, I had developed a stutter, which I didn't have. I was not engaging with other kids. And she just didn't know what it was. And, God bless my parents, because I love them. My dad brought us over from DR when we were I was 3 years old. So he really suffered to get us here. And that to me is monumental for him to do. But my parents had no idea what to do with a traumatized kid.
Right.
Because that's not, you don't get, I don't have any kids, but, I'm really close with my nephews and nieces and my brothers. And I always say, being a parent, being a parent is the easiest thing, because that's biology. I mean, being a father, being a mother, that's biology. You have a baby in 9 months, you're a parent, but you're not given a handbook, what it takes to raise a child. So when my story was flipped, I just went completely shut down. But this teacher used art to get me to open up. And I remember she gifted me a set of colored pencils and some construction paper. And that's how I started. And I've been drawing ever since that age to now. So that's how I started in art. And then that went on until I was about 13 or 14. And then when I was about around that age, then I got interested in fashion. Because I went to our local newsstand and I saw a issue of GQ magazine, and it had a black man on the cover. And I had never seen a black man on a cover of a magazine before. And I saved every little, I don't remember how much GQ was in 1979. It might have been $1.50 or something, but I saved the little bit of money. I would do a lot of errands in the neighborhood. I would sweep the stoop. I would do whatever I could do to get a little bit of change. And I saved all the money, and I got that issue of GQ magazine. And then that ushered me into the fashion world. And by that time I went to high school, I figured out that I wanted to be an artist, but I was too afraid to say what that meant, because I didn't come from a household that art was ever a thing.
Right.
Let alone fashion. And then when you say you want to sew, that brings in the gay aspect to it. And a young kid
I did not come over here from DR for you to be sewing. You know what I'm saying? I sacrificed. And that's their mentality. And we have a lot of people that share those stories. Even, our parents, we get the dedication they did and the struggle that they did, but that's their world. And
totally.
And their 9 to 5 was the success of it, which was great. But here's a new generation now that, still honor those values, but hey, there's more. There's more to that. We can do both.
So my father was the one. He was like, no, no, no. You're not having a sewing machine in this house. I don't care. But I was in high school, and so I went to a non-art high school because I was afraid of my father and my family in general, not just my parents, but like my uncles. I come from a huge Dominican family on both sides. I was already felt like the odd man out.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't want to. I've always lived my life hiding from the limelight.
Gotcha.
And the limelight somehow always finds me, and I'm always fighting against it. Because as a little kid drawing, I didn't want anyone to know. I didn't want to do anything.
Yeah.
But it always brought me forward. So finally, it was going into my sophomore year in high school. And I was like, I want to be an artist. So then I found a program where I can attend art and design high school in the afternoons, and then my academic school in the mornings. So I was able to still do the academic stuff because I was a good student. And then I would do the art thing in the afternoons. And that was when I first realized that if I want something, I have to be able to do it and just do it. So then I went to art and design high school for 3 years, part-time. I graduated high school, and then I went to Pratt Institute in Brooklyn for fashion design.
I want to ask you, you have these two outlets, the art and then the fashion, and they both served a different purpose in your life. What did the art give you that you needed at that time when you was young and you're 3 years old and up? And then what did the fashion bring to your life that you needed on a deeper level when it came into your life?
I think art for me was about communication and expression. I didn't like to speak in public. I didn't like to stand out. So art allowed me to do something by myself. No one bothered me. And that's what it was. It was just a refuge.
It
somewhere
gave
where
you a voice, outlet as
I
well.
could just hide. And then the fashion aspect just became another outlet I just figured out how to commercialize the art. If I have to make money doing art, which I never, I wasn't a fine arts painter, what could I do? I had an aunt, my Aunt Cookie, who who was a stitcher at a factory, and she would make the little sketches that I would design. I would go to her house and we would work on them, and she would sew them for me.
Oh wow!
I know, she's amazing. I just saw her on Saturday, and I figured out I could make a life doing fashion design, and that's what I pursued. Also, I thought, but a bigger part of that was I said if I become very successful, I can create a persona that then I can put on and take off, and that could be E. Sosa, and that's when I created E. Sosa. That's E. Sosa over there, and Emilio is someone somewhere else. But eventually, I couldn't. Eventually, life brings you. You can't create two different scenarios. You can only live one life.
Right.
And the fashion world kind of broke my heart as a young man of color really early. And I just didn't like what I experienced, what I was looking at in magazines. I didn't understand. Yeah, it just wasn't for me. I have a big, loud mouth.
Yeah.
And I'm big and broad, but I'm a.
So what did you do in those moments to, stand true to yourself and what you believe in, and not, fall into these traps or this toxic world at times? You know what I'm saying? We're not perfect. Every now and then we might go into it, but then like we realize that's not for me. You know what I'm saying? Like I need to be me. So like what helped you stay true to yourself? And even though you didn't want to play this game, and even though the odds are against you, but you just kept going and I guess found your lane.
But I don't know where that comes from. I've always been that way. If I don't feel something, if it doesn't feel right in my spirit or my soul, I I've never been afraid to, like, I know this is a bad expression, to like cut your nose to spite your face, but I've never been afraid to walk away from what on the outside would appear to be an amazing opportunity or an amazing achievement if on the inside I was miserable and it wasn't really giving me what I needed. I've never been afraid to leave a place. But specifically fashion would be, I was working for Calvin Klein in the visual merchandising department. And in the department, we would just decorate all of the showrooms. He had like about 5 floors on 39th Street. And every season, our job was to change the merchandise over and maintain. Back then, the aesthetic, there's a lot of like accessories and pictures and bags. And one of the jobs was that if we're changing over a showroom, we would have to carry either merchandise or props using the freight elevator up and down. And it's too many times I was stopped by security and asked me, why am I carrying all these jeans? Do I work there? Why do I have the props? And I just got to a point where, like, you know what? It's not worth it. I don't care. I didn't love fashion that much to withstand that kind of abuse. And like I'm saying, this is back in the early 90s. I'm talking about, 91, 92. This was before the whole, what we're living now as far as racial equality and fight for your rights. Back then, I was getting stopped every other day, especially during the changeovers. I was like, I didn't care. I didn't care about fashion that much that it like would really make me want to stay longer. And I was already toying with theater by that point. Okay. And so I decided I'm just going to put all my energy into theater. At least in theater, I could be who I was. I wasn't getting stopped doing what I wanted to do. And theater has its own like racial situations back then, but it wasn't as overt as in fashion. So I felt a little safer to be who I was and create. And that's when I really, really pushed myself to be a theater designer.
How was that experience for you now? What was the difference jumping into that and, and jumping into that world? And what did you learn from that experience?
Like I said, I've always been fortunate or lucky or blessed, whichever adjective you can use to experience that I was always at the right place at the right time. I was in college, almost going into my last year, my sophomore year, really. And I was taking a history of costume class, which was part of the curriculum for the fashion design degree. One semester, who cares? You do it. But I met this amazing teacher once again. Yeah. That's why I'm so into
I love teachers.
Me too. I mean, I love teachers. Teachers should really be paid the most in any society.
Yeah.
But that's a whole nother conversation. Yeah. Really.
They make a huge difference.
The ones that
that care and they do their job and make a difference. They, just like you've been touched by teachers in a positive way to like go after it and support you. I've been blessed that way too, and I can't stress it enough. Like
a teacher can make or break you. Even a teacher could even ruin your career or your dreams because they probably didn't have the balls or the energy to follow their own dreams. Yep. So they want to squash on yours. And I've experienced that too with people in the theater. Yep. But luckily I found this woman, Betty Williams, who was a pioneer in the costuming world. And she made an announcement that a costume shop was looking for a shopper to work there. A shopper in the costume world is someone that goes around and literally shops. You buy fabric, thread, whatever, paper.
I was taking like a technical class and like I love to dress up too. And I was like, I would like to be the shopper. Like like to know the different fabrics and stuff like that. I was like, yeah, I would like to do that.
Right. But not me. I was like, no, I'm not a theater person. Back then I was in theater. I was like, oh, that's not what I'm going to do. No. So I turned it down and went to design children's clothes for the summer. And my best friend at the time took the job. So the summer went by. We got back. Winter recess. I wasn't designing the children's clothes anymore. He had found another job, and he told me, Emilio, you should really meet these women. 2 Italian Sicilian sisters who owned the costume shop on 54th Street. It was so foreign to me. So he said, you really should meet these women. They would love you, and you would love it. I was like, fuck, I needed a job. Also, I'm pragmatic. Money is money. I've always learned that you have to have a roof over your head, no matter what, no matter where you are. And there's no shame in work. I've done every type of work to be able to pursue my dreams. That doesn't define you. You know what I'm saying? I've sold shoes. I worked in a spa. I've done all kinds of shit. But that never stopped me from who I was. So I went and met the lady.
I mean, that's how you got to where you are, by being humbled and grounded. It's like, I gotta do what I gotta do.
You gotta do it. You gotta work. You gotta work.
Yeah.
I always tell young students, you can't really make good art if you don't have a place where you feel comfortable to put your head down. You can't be worried about where you're gonna sleep tonight and then think you're gonna create the great American novel. Because you don't have the energy, or your spirit is not with it. So I needed a job. So I said, fine. I went there, met the ladies, fell in love with the ladies. These older, like I said, Italian, Sicilian, literally, it's like families are the same, whether you're Black, white, Dominican, Jewish, Chinese. When you have that family dynamic, it's easy to fit in. So it was a family-owned business. So I just became one of their sons. And I met, within the first 2 weeks, I met my first great mentor in my life. And that was the great designer, actor, artist, Jeffrey Holder. And Jeffrey Holder, if some people don't know who he is right now, because Jeffrey Holder was, if you remember the 7-Up commercials, the On Cola, he was this big black man. Do you remember James Bond film To Live or Let Die? He played Baron Samedi. But Jeffrey Holder had directed and designed The Wiz on Broadway. That was his big Broadway claim to fame. He won a Tony for costume design and direction, which had never been done since then. So he was a big deal. He's a man of color, and he just took me under his wing. And I just learned how to talk to actors. I learned how to present myself to producers. I learned how to conduct a fitting. I learned all the stuff that you're not taught in school. Because in school you're taught to design pretty dresses or beautiful costumes, and that's it. Maybe you have
life lessons.
This is how because my job as a costume designer, it's 95% psychology and 5% design.
Explain that. I love that, by the way.
Because here you are, you have an actor in their most vulnerable state, underwear, in front of a mirror, in a room of people.
That's so true.
So
I would love that. I'm like, dress me. Give me that blazer, please. I'm a size 46. Okay. 38. Wait.
Right. Until I measure you, then I go, well, really, you're size 42.
Okay. I'm going to go to that treadmill. I'm going to go to that treadmill.
I'm going to tell you you're 42. I'm going to bring you up to make you feel good about what you're wearing.
Nice.
And also psychology, because you're creating a character.
Yeah.
And you have to get into an actor's head. What are they bringing to the table? It's not I've never worked I think fashion design is the only medium where you can tell a model, here, wear this, shut up, and walk down the aisle and walk down the runway. When you're dealing with actors or any kind of performer, for me, I've gotten the best design when I include them in to the collaborative effort. Because at the end of the day, an actor that feels good in the costumes gives a better performance. Right. And if an actor gives a better performance, it's a better show. And then the show is good, then it's successful. and it's successful. You know what I mean? It just be, you have you can make, like, a teacher can make or break your career or your trajectory in life. A designer could really, really ruin an actor's psyche and their self-esteem on stage. And then that affects what the director can do with an actor. So I take it really, really personal to make sure that when I'm in a fitting, I create a space that's a safe space for them to be able to express their feelings, talk to me about the character. I will curate special playlists that I would think match their character, and then we open.
You are. I was gonna say, I see that the writer in you there. With
because you know what? Because I got to know them by the music. Because either they clicked on it and we're like, yes, or they were like, that's not what I'm feeling. I'm feeling this or that, and then that would inform me as the designer of what the actor wants to bring to the table.
It would, it would inspire more creativity and moods that you want to bring. And, you know, it's like making a sancocho, all these beautiful things that's in this soup. And you're like, everything tastes great.
Exactly. You know, and also it gave them a sense of trust in me that I would never, ever send them out looking bad just because of my ego as the designer. And it's what I wanted. And I think one thing I've become famous for with my actors is, like, once I fit everything, I'm like, okay, give me your top 3. Give me because I don't have the final say. It's the director.
That's true. Yeah.
The costume designer, I can present to the director. So I'm always telling my actor, if you don't like it, don't put it on, and don't tell me you like it, because if the director sees a photograph and loves it, you're going to have to put it on stage. So I'm like, give me your top 3. And
the best.
Give me your top 3, knowing that the director has the last say on this. So if they feel comfortable with 2 of them, we always threw one that was really, really bad and made no sense.
That's perfect.
That's great.
I do that to all my directors. That's what maybe I won't get hired anymore. I always throw in something that I know was going to be shitty. Not shitty, because nothing I do is bad. That wasn't right. So then it makes the other 2 look better. So, so the actor knew that at least they had a 50-50 chance that the one that they really, really loved would get picked. And I would always advocate for the one they really loved, because I wouldn't show the director nothing that I didn't approve of, regardless. I love all 3. And if the actor
was there ever a moment where the director almost leaned to that bad one? That was totally. He was like, "Oh, this one is just not right, but it's so right."
I know, you're
totally. Like, no.
Oh my god!
Totally. I've had those kind of things, but then I'll figure it out. I'm like, you know what? That's great, but look at this. Try this, and then we'll work it out. But at the end, that's why I say psychology, because creating a character is not just about putting a costume on an actor and throwing them on stage. For me, creating a character is getting to know what the actor brings to.
And it's so funny because you're so important in this industry, because you're almost like one of the last steps for this character, because they most likely coming into this with a grip of what this character is to them, and now the final piece to elevate to the next level is this clothing. And you are this last moment for that, because that could either make, like you said, make it or break you.
Totally. And then by that point, a lot of times what I've learned, and now as a writer, I'm realizing you have a lot of power, because very few actors will tell a writer, well, I'm not going to say that. You can give like, oh, I wouldn't say it that way, but at the end of the day, you will say it the way the writer wrote it eventually. You know what I'm saying? So the costumes is one of the last, like you said, one of the last places where they have a say in what creates the character. And I give them that voice, so they're not just voiceless in a costume that they hate, reading lines that they hate. So if they don't like the lines, if they don't like the blocking, if they hate their co-star,
Mm-hmm.
at least they know they look good and they feel good.
Have you ever been in a situation when someone did not like their costume and that's the one the director picked?
I mean, I've made mistakes. I'm human.
Of course.
I've made mistakes, and looking back, I would have changed some things.
Okay.
But then again, that's the beauty of theater.
Yeah.
If it doesn't work, I have a week or so to fix it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which is the big difference with film and TV.
Yeah.
For me, film, once it's in the can, you're gonna have to put that dress on for all the other pickups. It doesn't matter if you hated it. In theater, we have that little bit of time to fix it. But I don't like to go into tech with unknowns. I like my director to know what he's getting first day of tech, because then you can create your show. If you're busy trying to fix the costumes, then you're not looking at the acting, or you're not looking at the blocking. So I try to make sure that when we're in tech, the director is getting at least 95% of what the look is on that first day. Because then you can make changes and then move on to really directing a show and not having to fix every costume along the way.
What was a lesson that you learned from your mentor that even to this day still teaches you and reminds you of things?
And I say it's a lesson that I've learned that I use every day, but I break it every other day, is to listen before you speak. Don't have the answer until they ask you the damn question.
Yeah, that's a lot.
That's a lot of. I feel like that.
A lot of times I put myself in jeopardy. Like, oh yeah, I know you hate those shoes, and they're like, oh, it wasn't the shoes, it was the necklace. But now that you mentioned the shoes,
nice.
So that's what it is. It's listen,
Mm-hmm.
listen to learn, not to respond.
Mm-hmm.
So I've learned how to keep quiet. Let them give me all their notes. Let it get it all out. Because if they don't bring it up, I don't bring it up. That's one of the lessons. If they don't bring up something, I don't bring it up. If they don't, but then I'll fix it on my own without them having to tell me. You know what I mean? I won't say, oh my God, I hate that skirt, but I'll get you another one. If they don't bring it up, I'll just don't say anything and then change it. And then they'll love it, or they'll say, oh my gosh, she looks amazing. And I'll never tell them why, because I changed the shirt, or I changed the shirt. That's what I've learned.
What have you, I was going to ask you, what have you learned from working as a costume designer with the actors who were vulnerable, from this kid that you were vulnerable, that you didn't want to speak to anyone, and you wanted to be alone, and now you're interacting with someone else who is in a vulnerable state? What did that lesson teach you?
What I take from it is, don't push. Don't push. Some people can come in and blast the music, and it's like a party, blah, blah. And then some people are more like, it's quiet, it's reserved. Meet people where they're at. And then that's a big one. Meet people, because none of us are ever in the same place with everyone at the same time. So, and it's about listening.
I was gonna say too, like, when did you start feeling comfortable with yourself and accepting yourself, especially in the family, a Spanish household, with a lot of people who relate to our stories, and we all have similar stories. Like, our parents doesn't come from this artistic background, so in a sense they don't understand us, and until they start seeing some type of success of what we actually doing. But even still, then it's like it doesn't still register all the way to them. They're like, okay, well, you did a show, that's great, when are you gonna do this? Like, so when did you stood up for your dream and stood up for yourself to be proud in front of your parents, like, okay, I get it, but I'm going to keep on going this route because this is what I love to do? Because I think a lot of the times our parents can, not because they want to, can hold us back or be in a position to make us stay still and be what they want us to be in their life, and not accept our journey.
That happens. Yep.
You know what it was? I was just never. It came to a point where I was always willing to lose in order for me to win. I never got so comfortable where I never ever felt like, okay, like as a young man, if you're going through sexual orientation issues, whatever they are, you know how like you date girls, or your peer pressure to date girls, stuff like that. I didn't put myself in that space. I didn't care if they called me like sissy, pato, maricon, any of that shit. It hurt. Yes, I'm not gonna say it didn't hurt, but it didn't stop me, and it didn't force me to become something. So as a young kid, I was able to withstand those arrows that moving forward in my life, I was like, it is what it is. And although I will say, like, I don't think my parents still know exactly what it is I do today. You know what I mean?
I was gonna ask you, how about now?
They don't even, I think what they worry most about is like, can I keep a roof over my head?
Yeah.
Are my bills paid? Am I saving money?
Are you eating?
Yep. That's all they care about.
And as long as I can do all that, it's cool. But I didn't have like my parents at every show. I didn't have like that kind of support that some people have, like as a young kid, I didn't have that. I just knew that I wanted to succeed. And then it became an ego thing. I was like, okay, you don't think I can do it? Okay, you're going to see. I'm going to be famous. And when I'm famous, I'm going to rub it in your face. All you motherfuckers are going to see. And then for a long time, that's what drove me. I'm like, I'm going to show you that little kid that got picked on is going to be successful, and all you MFers are going to want to know who I am.
Motherfuckers.
And that, you know what? And that drove me. But also, what that did was that pushed a lot of people out.
Okay.
When did that fuel stop for the ego fuel? When you drained it and it was like, well, I have no more energy left because it's draining this ego?
This year, when
you was running on a full tank of ego.
Full tank of ego.
No, this year when the rug was like thrown from under me, with my career just collapsed.
Yeah.
Like I said, this pandemic just kind of leveled the playing field for all of us in the industry. We're all out of work. Okay, so you have a little more money saved up. Okay, so you have a bigger apartment. But at the end of the day, we're all unemployed. So shut the fuck up, Emilio. No one cares. No one cares anymore. That persona that I created, that I spent, like I said, 10 months out of the year traveling, I never had to sit with myself.
Did you like sitting? Did you like yourself, the person that you were sitting, sitting with, that when you were sitting in this quarantine? Because what I noticed, a lot of people, they never, like you said, they never gave themselves to work on themselves, to really, ask themselves questions, dig deep, right? And this quarantine, you didn't have no place to run, and you was forced to be with yourself. So did you like the person that you was sitting with in this quarantine?
No, and that's what my manuscript about. My manuscript really it's me bearing my soul about the man that I turned into pursuing a dream and taking no prisoners. And like, you're right, I had to sit in myself with my parents, because at the beginning of this, I was taking care of my mom and dad. Because, they're elderly. So I said, okay, let me move to the Bronx, back to my high school bedroom at my age.
Wow.
Baby, I was like,
ooh, you was going through it. But you know what's so spiritual about that is that you're revisiting the little child that you left behind for so many years.
God. With my father. So the first 3 months or 4 months of this pandemic, from March when I moved in to when I left in July, was me and my mom and my dad figuring out how we're going to communicate as adults.
Oh.
And for me, not to relitigate my childhood to them.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I couldn't just go into it. Well, you did this. You made me feel this way every day. It was just too much. And that's what I said. I had to meet them where they were and understand the choices they made at that time.
Yeah.
So that's what really, really made me see the kind of person I had become, was going back to where it all started from. And some of it I liked, but a lot of it I didn't like.
But you allowed yourself to go there and make changes, and that's the most powerful. And that's the most powerful thing of this story, is that you gave yourself that chance and you didn't run for it. You know.
Well, the pandemic,
you had no choice.
But look, but here's the thing.
You look, I'm not gonna take care of you.
No, but the pandemic stopped you from running to other places, but you still had the phone. You still had Netflix. You still had a lot of food. You still had a lot of things that you could have drowned yourself in and ignored a lot of things.
And I didn't have any of that. We don't have Netflix in the house. We have
you didn't. You're right. You didn't have. You was by yourself with them. You're right.
We have basic cable and no Wi-Fi. So I was doing all of my writing on my iPhone, and that's what it was. But I needed that. I needed to go back there so I can really figure out moving forward. You know, all the people that I hurt and all the things that I've done. That while on paper you look at my career and it's like, oh my God, it's amazing. But there's a lot of hurt that comes with that, because when you're a hustler and you're only seeing yourself and that shiny object in front of you, you know, you tend to step over some people, and you know, the same people you see on the way up are the same people you see on the way down, baby. And like I said, once the carpet got pulled from under all of us, then
I think it's great is that you took responsibility and went
I still
on
need
this.
More.
Of course, it's an ongoing journey.
That's like never end.
But at
you're
least
doing it.
You have the steps now to know and to recognize, when this industry comes back, whenever it is. But it's not going to wait till another pandemic for you to do another soul searching to be have a one-on-one with yourself again. You could recognize and check yourself.
I pray that I don't go back to my old coping mechanisms. Because that's all it was. I would do things not to have to deal with the reality of things. So and you never know, because that's what the journey of life is. I'm hopeful that I've gotten enough of self-reflection that I can figure out my triggers. Like, don't do that. If you feel depressed, or you don't feel happy, or you feel down, don't go for the endorphins that make you feel good in the moment. Figure out what you're feeling, honor those feelings. There's nothing wrong with feeling that way, but figure that out before, you go back to, my drinking and smoking.
Trying to hide it.
Well, I think also what's so great about this is that, one, thank you for being so honest and vulnerable and sharing that. But I think what's so great is that you're acknowledging this person that you ran away from for so long, because that was a norm in your life of you being, not being heard in many ways. Something happened to you and now your voice is shut down, and you created this persona is loud, is not going to be taken advantage of. Fuck you, blah, blah, get out of my way, guns blazing. But that was something to protect yourself.
Right. That's not who I really.
That's not who you really was.
That's not my essence.
Yes.
That's not my essence.
And here you are now, nurturing and
the child,
and facing that child that, like, you know what, things that have happened accordingly, and you didn't deserve certain things that happened to you. But guess what? It's okay, because I'm here, and we could work on it together the right ways. Because we allow society and the world and family to deter us and make us something that we would never was. And so I think that's great that you gave yourself the chance to revisit who's Emilio.
Thank you so much. And I came out of it with a freaking manuscript.
Look at that. And
register.
write another one.
Register.
Listen, I already have the next 3 in my head written down. So it's just a matter of.
I mean, I could only imagine what you wrote just by sharing with this small amount of time that you gave us of your journey. I could only imagine what else you've been through in details. And I know it's great. And I know it's going to continue to be great and become greater because you gave yourself the chance and you're going to keep on building. And the right people, your spirit is going to guide you to the right people to uplift it.
Totally. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Because we're all in this together. That's another thing I learned through this whole experience. Like we said at the beginning, we don't create in a vacuum. We're all in this together. We all have to uplift each other. And as corny as that sound now, you know, a year ago, I would never be saying this shit out loud. I'd be like, you know, I did this. I created this. This is me. This, you know, at the end of the day, I've had a lot of help.
Yeah.
And the only way you can really acknowledge and, you know, accept that is by giving the help to others, passing it forward. It's just not gimme. It's about give me, thank you, I accept it, but here something back and giving it back. So I've like you said, I've gone through a journey and I could really get specific, but it created a man that knows why he is the way he is. And I don't have to hide behind my career anymore to feel comfortable about who I am. And that took a long time because for a long time it was deal with the public career. Yeah. I'm not going to share the personal. You know, you paid for the public, you didn't pay for the personal. So that's what you get, you know, but
there's nothing wrong with that either, too.
Yeah, but in the work that we do, it's so collaborative.
Yeah.
It's how you build careers, because it's how you build families and teams, because that's how you get hired. If a director likes I just heard, I was on like Instagram, something. Someone said something that really stuck with me, which I had heard in the past, but I just discounted it. They said, it doesn't matter how talented you are. If people don't want to spend time with you, they're not going to hire you.
Yeah.
They will hire someone less talented that has a better attitude and a more open spirit than someone who's super talented and it's like closed door and like, you know, and for a long time, I couldn't really jive with it. I'd be like, what? I'm the most talented. I could do this. I could do that. But Papi, if you don't want to mix with them during the breaks, if you isolate yourself, that people want to, if you're going to spend 18 hours with someone, you want to be around people that you like, that you can, you know, create some kind of connection. And I'm not saying that I never did that, but that wasn't the norm.
Okay.
And, you know, and that I realized affected my career where then so I had to figure it out.
That reminds me of this. When I was in college, I was looking for internships. I had an interview with one of these MTV directors there or something. But anyway, he was like, he's like, listen, I don't care if you don't know how to edit. I can teach you that. I don't care if you don't know how to, write certain things or whatever. I can teach you that. But what I can't teach you is work ethic and you being a kind person. That's something that comes within you, and you have that. And I can teach you the rest. And that was something that was a trend. Like I was always an honest person. You know, if you cross me, I'll stand up for myself. But I always show love, and I noticed that there's not a lot of that in this industry at times. There's a lot of snakes. There's a lot of backstabbers. There's a lot of negative people, fake people, but people who are true and pure to themselves and just kind, a simple thing, it's rare to find. People have great work ethic. And I quickly learned that. And he didn't have to share that, but that was something that always stuck with me.
And for me, it was more that my true nature is I'm really a shy, introspect hermit.
Yeah.
But I've been put in God has put me in situations where the light shines on me, so you can't hide.
Mm.
So the way I dealt with it was to be really like, it was about the work, nothing else. And as long as my work is amazing, then I can just not have to interact.
Yeah.
And I was just trying to protect that inner child.
Of course.
That's where it'll
and
come from.
it just stopped working for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then this pandemic really, just like I said, put us all in a level playing field. And I just realized that you could be as talented as you want to be, but if people don't like the person that you are, they're not going to check for you. And
no one can take anything away from you. You are a talented and grown man, and you're no longer a child that people could take advantage of. You know what I'm saying? So no one can take anything from you. No one's in control of you but you. And you being yourself is powerful, and it's enough. If the right people like you, that's great. And if they don't like you, it is what it is. But they're not going to like the real Emilio. You're not
right. That's what I'm saying.
You know what I'm saying? Which is a powerful thing to be at.
Right. I can't control how you accept me.
Yeah.
And I was trying to do that through my interaction. I was editing myself to fit the situation.
Yeah.
Now I can just go in and be who I am, and it's like, you like it, you do it. If you don't, you don't. And you don't, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, it's fine.
But you want to get work. That's why I wanted to create my own, so I can create my own destiny. I didn't want to have to depend so much on, a director, a writer, an actor, a producer, an owner to check off on me.
Yeah.
I wanted to
be
in control of my destiny in a sense.
Nice.
So
Emilio, we're almost done. We're gonna move forward to this last segment, and it's called "Let's Look Inside." And there's 3 questions to it, and whatever comes to mind, you go after it. This one is this first question is: what do you love about yourself?
What do I love about myself? I love my tenacity to not give up on myself, although my self-esteem goes up and down, but I don't ever give up on myself. I always bet on myself.
Love that.
The second question is, what do you think is the meaning of your life?
I don't know what the meaning of my life is, because I'm living it. It's when it's over and someone can look back and then look at it and say what it meant. Because right now I'm still creating it. I'm still creating it. It's my story. It's an every day is a new story. So the meaning of my life is tomorrow is another day. And if you're blessed to see it, don't take it for granted.
There you go.
And the last question, or 2 questions, these are reflection cards, and we shuffled them. I don't know what the questions are, and you could just answer whatever comes to mind. So the first one is, what is one magical memory from this past year?
One magical, one magical memory is, and this is super duper personal, but I want to share because it was so magical. It's we were deep into the pandemic, right? And my dad was complaining about he couldn't get a haircut. Yeah, he can't get a haircut. He wanted to get his haircut every day. We're like, shut up! You can't get a haircut. And then my mom was like, oh my God, I can't. And then I offered my dad to cut his hair. He said, no, I don't want you to cut my hair. And then my mom was like, oh my God, me quiero lavar la cabeza, pero no puedo. But I said, Mommy, okay, I'm going to wash your hair. And she was like, bet, okay. So I washed my mom's hair in the bathroom. And
that's beautiful.
And she allowed me to wash her hair. And that's something that I never, ever in my life thought I would do. And I washed her hair. I tried to blow it out terribly, but she allowed me to. And then that's when I realized that it's a real gift to wash people's hair. And she allowed me to wash and set her hair. And she felt so much better about herself. that I felt good, that I was able to give her that little bit of normalcy during this craziness.
Thank you for sharing. That's a beautiful story.
Yeah.
Okay, teared up. The second question is, how have your spiritual views changed in the last decade?
But you kind of like touched on that.
Yeah.
Let's see. So in the last 10 years, you know what I realized is that I grew up Catholic. Mm-hmm. Then I was baptized Baptist. Then I was trying to figure out so I was always trying to find something to define who I was, my relationship with God, at least for me as a Christian, that within the last, between 10 years and now, I realized that I can have my own relationship with my maker in my house alone. I don't have to go into a building to be told I'm a Catholic to be accepted. I don't have to go into a church to be told I'm a Baptist or a synagogue to try to become Jewish. I could really just have my own spiritual connection and relationship with God as a man that he made me. And that's a huge change. Like 10 years ago, I was probably going to what was like the best church to go to in New York. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was to that point in my life where even my religious experience had a transactionary relationship. Till I had to figure out that's not what it's about. So that's what I learned the last 10 years about my spirituality, is that I'm in control of it and I can have a one-on-one relationship with God on my terms, and it is what it is.